Welcome to Slash Forward. In this episode, we're going to take a modern look at a story that is a timeless classic with the 2014 film WolfCop. To connect with your inner beast, subscribe to the channel. Let's get to it. We open on a little sequence that shows a man running and the implications of some sort of satanic ritualistic hunting going on. But then we hard transition to a traditional bachelor's pad in which the deputy sheriff Lou starts the morning with a little hair of the dog and what I would call an unbreakfast before heading into work. Through these fast cuts narrated by the local morning disc jockeys, we learn that amidst a mayoral race there's an upcoming drink and shoot hunting event, and that lots of local pets have recently gone missing, none of which is completely surprising as the citizens of this town get day drunk and beat each other senseless, while demonstrating not a lick of respect for authority. Lou finally arrives 2 hours late to relieve Tina from the night shift, and finds the chief on edge about a recent string of armed robberies. As penance, Lou is immediately sent out to address a disturbance call made by Willie Higgins. He's looking for someone with whom he can share his conspiracy theories about how the local kids are performing satanic rituals on the local pet population. The evidence, however, is brushed off as mere superficial adornments created by the local metalheads. After all this hard work, he turns in for a lunch break, and while here we meet Terry, the idealistic mayoral challenger looking to clean up the town. However, his messaging does not translate well to a crowd of scumbags, and they run him off. That night, Lou finds himself on a new assignment deep in the woods, where he usually only goes to masturbate, so you know he's keyed up. With no specific location provided, he's forced to wander in the wilderness, and eventually comes across Terry hanging from a tree before he then passes out. He wakes up like so many mornings with no recollection of how the prior evening ended, but through his powerful investigative instincts, he finds some evidence to follow. Outside, he's inundated with sounds and smells as he heads off to another call. The scene is poor Terry dead in a ditch with a needle in his arm, the observance of which initiates flashbacks for Lou. Bob shows up and uses Terry's crotch as a coffee tray, but keeping it profesh, he declines to presume a cause of death until after the autopsy. While checking the scene, Lou notices Tina's arrival by the smell of her perfume.
I don't wear any.
Oh, well, you know, your signature scent, if you will. And the news of the murder results in an immediate cancellation of the drink and shoot event. Later, Lou surprises everyone by doing some actual police work. As the clock gets close to 10, Jess makes an early last call, preparing a private party of sorts for Lou. As he consumes, she takes out the trash, giving us the vague impression something is up. Lou's brain begins throbbing, driving him to the little boy's room. Here he attempts to relieve himself, but his flow turns red, right before his dick fully explodes. So, not relieving at all. Then his beautiful new body attempts to claw its way out. Amidst this, some men arrive with bats, but it's too late for that, and his eventual emergence from the noise and chaos is witnessed by Jess. And he wakes up, again, with no memory. This time, he's chained to Willie's bed, like so many officers before him. Willie shows him video evidence that he tranked Wolf Lou the prior night, but Lou is incredulous. To prove the point, Willie feeds him eggs, riddled with wolfsbane, which he can't tolerate. Willie then warns him to be careful between now and the eclipse. Tina drives him off while explaining the scene they found at Jessica's bar. When they arrive, Jessica acts real casual and thanks Lou for saving her from a robbery. Then, as they secure the brutal scene, Lou offers to cover Tina's shift, which is very out of character for him. In a brief cutscene, we see the leader of the local gang of toughs did intend for their men to capture Lou and punishes the survivor for being late to the abduction. Even though losing an eye won't help him be on time. Lou spends the beginning of his shift at the library, connecting recent events with prior events from the town's past, and these seem to involve his father to some degree. He then shows Willie that he found the master book of werewolf lore and explains that they're usually created from village idiots, individuals who are easy to control, a necessary step since they're so powerful in the time leading up to an eclipse. During the eclipse, the werewolf weakens, and its blood can be harvested for the benefit of the shapeshifters. Now, if they can just figure out how the reverse vampires are involved. The evening air is bristling with excitement as Willie sets up his camera, and they discuss the degree to which Lou should be stripping down for their scientific endeavor. Tina shows up briefly to tell Lou that back in the day, their fathers had each other's backs, and she doesn't believe their deaths were accidental, as the town is bulging with deep, dark secrets. Then she leaves them to their guy stuff. As a result, Willie is the sole individual to bear witness to the transformation, and he is taken aback by its beauty. After a few hours, Lou gets restless, so he excuses himself to take a call for an ongoing armed robbery. They arrive and discuss whether it's appropriate for him to interject in his current condition.
You're a wolf.
Cop.
The local pig gang is relieving the store of its inventory, and after finding his brand of justice to be a fairly efficient means of handling business, they dip next door for some helpful upgrades. Luckily, wolf powers include an advanced understanding of welding and auto body repair. All set up to rock out, they find some punks to piss on as they continue their efforts toward reducing crime in town. Meanwhile, Tina visits the bar her dad used to run, and without an affinity for breasts, Jessica's demeanor takes on an all-new countenance. But their repartee is interrupted by reports of a giant wolf driving around town, so Tina has to head out. As all of this unfolds, the local ruffians are getting wild at their secret barn hideout, where the leader snorts what appears to be crystallized blood. Lou picks up the musk of these shenanigans and busts directly into their hideout. They immediately open fire, but Lou's jacked, and he straight up rips a dude's face off. Despite this, many henchmen stick around, so he tears through them with ease. When a fire breaks out, Willie makes a call to an unknown party, and they head back to the station, opting to lay low, partially on account of having ripped someone's face off. Elsewhere, Tina and the chief are trying to make sense of the robbery witness statements, and find themselves following a path of destruction through town. Back at the station, Jess is there, playing Little Red Riding Hood and absolutely loving the feel of Lou's rough, hair-covered cock. And then we witness what is probably the most erotic and tender love scene ever put to celluloid. Or maybe it's just me discovering new things about my own body. Jess then slips him the traditional post-coital tranquilizer, sending him to nappy time as she shifts her shape, revealing herself to also be the mayor. Now the shapeshifters are in possession of Lou, as the gang leader orders the remaining men to group up and meet him down the road. The next morning, Willie rolls up in his hearse, and we get confirmation they're all in on the ritual. But unlike prior iterations, Lou is much stronger than expected, and Willie recommends proceeding with caution. As they leave, Tina peeps their activity and fills in the blanks with the security footage. Feeling a little jelly about the lovemaking session, she gears up to go hunt those suckers down, driving off as the eclipse slides into place. The crowd of hardasses shows up, suited up for anything, and we see the gang leader also doubles as the chief. They wake Lou up to reveal themselves to him, and as they prepare the ritual, Tina makes her way in. The noises of the men being slaughtered is very distracting, but they keep their eyes on the goal, sticking Lou with an unclean blade so they can fill their ceremonial chalice. But Tina makes it to the circle and lines up her shot, giving Lou the chance to break free and frolic around in the orange light of the eclipse. Tina then squares off with the mayor, who reveals that Tina's father was, in fact, the prior wolf 32 years prior. And Lou squares off with everyone else, eviscerating, shooting, punching heads off, and so forth. His return distracts the mayor long enough for Tina to shoot her. So now it's just the chief, hoping to complete the sacrifice. Tina manages to run him through with a rapier, but then he comes in for a bloody hug and forcibly penetrates her. But through the rejuvenating power of alcohol, Lou perks up enough to land a headshot. Now that the shapeshifters are all getting their butts poked by demons in hell, and the eclipse is coming to an end, our unlikely pair head off to enjoy their recovery time at the hospital. Just a quick note that I have a website set up where you can support the channel through donations or merch. I'd like to take a moment to give a huge thanks to my donors, memorialized in the Hall of Headshots. WolfCop was a fun roller coaster of a movie that had a really good balance of humor and gore to keep it from getting too silly, but also allowing it room to be what it is without taking itself too seriously. I thought it would be a good start and what I hope to be a ramp up of the intensity of my regular releases through the end of the month. If you enjoyed the video, I'd love for you to become a part of the channel by subscribing. Thanks for watching.